Hey guys, I hope you guys will enjoy this video. This is part 3 to What If Deku Had the 8 Gates. I see you guys have been enjoying my new series, which is What If Naruto Had Breathing Arts Remastered. Part 4 should be coming out sometime tomorrow, but for now, you guys are going to get this little wonder. And with that out of the way, and that said, let's get straight into it. So, as I said in the last part, the others would Izuku would try out for UA, or sign up to go try out for UA, but Rock Lee and the others would actually say that they were going to continue at the dojo and help spread, and even maybe intern with some heroes, some pro heroes, to try and promote the dojo, to gain popularity so that they can promote the dojo. Izuku would agree with this, and he would say he would become the greatest pro hero of all times, he would be the #1 hero, and he would pay all his respects to his mentors and his friends. Guy and Rock Lee would tear up at this and just hug Izuku and say, "Oh, Izuku, you're so precious, thank you!" And Neji and Tenten would be smiling, and Kakashi would also be eye-smiling. Neji would walk up and say, "Yeah, you go become the #1 hero. But just remember, I could still kick your ass any day of the week." "Well, when I become the #1 hero and fully harness my powers, we'll see who's on top, Neji." "Yes, we shall see, Izuku Midoriya." "That's alright, and it's a promise, Neji Hyuga." They would shake hands before Izuku would walk off to his mom's car, and his mom would drive him all the way to the UA entrance exam. Inside the building, Izuku would walk up and he would sit down in his seat. No tripping, he has perfect balance, and after all, he has perfect chakra control, so there'd be no need for anybody to catch him. Actually, he was quite booking it inside, so excited that he could try out for the school he always wanted to go to, the school that the famed All Might also attended, as well as multiple other notable pro heroes that obviously Izuku knew all about from his notes. Izuku would then walk over to the testing area and he would sit down to take his test. He would actually notice somebody across the room who he would recognize as Bakugo Katsuki, his previous best friend, who he asked his mom if he could actually move schools away from because of his toxicity, something he didn't really need in his life since he needed the positive vibes flowing to really get into a good training mood, and have Bakugo just constantly harass him. Even if Izuku could whoop him any day of the week, it still wouldn't feel good to whoop Bakugo and make him silent instead of just moving away from that situation completely. Izuku never thought of Bakugo as his friend after what Bakugo did the couple of years that he was still at, all of elementary school, so Izuku didn't really like him. In fact, he kind of hated the idea that he and Bakugo might be in the same class, seeing as that kind of toxicity and negativity could definitely affect the way he grows as a hero. But never mind, Izuku thought to himself. Let's get on with the test. After the test, he would go inside the waiting grounds for the robots. He would actually see a girl with light brown hair and a nice tracksuit. Or rather, he wasn't noticing the tracksuit, if you know what I mean. Deku was a little sly, and he caught his eyes kinda lacking. And another person who noticed this was a beglassed, tall, straight stick man with straight stick hair, or rather, teenager with straight stick hair and a blue running tracksuit. He would say, "Watch where your eyes are going, young man. That's no way for a hero to act." Izuku would immediately put his hand over Ida's mouth and jab him in the ribs, sending Ida to the floor, saying, "Shut it. I'm sorry, I was just about to catch myself. You don't have to make everybody look at me like that." Izuku looked around and luckily nobody heard the beglassed idiot. I'm just glad that nobody heard that. Look, I'm not a pervert, but I just got distracted, okay? Every boy does it. We're all teenage boys here. Not everybody can be as uptight as you. And sorry about the rib punch, I just got kind of annoyed. Yeah, that's okay. My name's Ida Tenya, Ida would say, still curling from the pain, but accepting Izuku's hand and getting up. How did you obtain such strength in just a simple punch? That's not your quirk, isn't? No, I actually haven't used my quirk yet. That was just a normal punch. Just a normal punch? Wow, that's incredible. You trained your body to such lengths? Yeah, but don't tell anyone. I want them to think it's my quirk, so they think I'm going all out, when really I'm just not even trying. Alright? It's mine and your little secret, after all. A true good shinobi always hides his true abilities, because deception is a great way to defeat your enemy. If your enemy underestimates you, then boom, you can pull out your full power and immediately destroy them. At least most of the time. Sometimes, it really depends on the power scaling. I see. So what is your quirk? Tell me yours and I might tell you mine. Mine is the Great Engine quirk. It runs through the Ida family, and I have it in my legs. My brother, Tensei, has it in his arms. You might know him as Ingenium. Oh, Ingenium. I know him. Yeah, your brother's pretty cool. I can't believe that's your older brother. Well, are you gonna follow in his footsteps? Of course I am, but I'm going to be even better than him. I love my brother dearly, but I promised him that I would be someone worthy of his rivalry, and a good rival is always surpassing the other. Well, that's a good goal. Maybe I can help you train. After all, I know some training regimens that wouldn't be as tough as mine were, but they'd still get your body in really good shape. I guess that could be a good idea. Yes, I would really like that. You said your name was... Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. Izuku said, sticking out his hand. My name is Izuku Midoriya. And you said you were Ida Tenya, so you don't have to introduce yourself again. Right. I hope we both get into UA. If we do, then Then, we might even get into the same class, and if we get into the same class, we'll have plenty of time to train together. Yeah, I actually quite like the idea of that, Ida. Alright, well, I guess I'll see you on the other side. Yes, see you too, Izuku Midoriya. President Mike would yell the words go, and everybody would rush in. Izuku, although, would stay behind stretching. President Mike would look at him, and he would say, What are you doing, kid? I said go! I know. What are you doing? Giving the others a head start. Why? Because they need to get some points. After all, I need some students with me, and not just the ones that got in based on recommendation. President Mike would immediately be quite confused by this until he sees Deku flare up in a green aura with his hair floating up and his skin turning red with some veins popping out. Izuku would burst forward with such speed that it was almost comparable to All Might's. Although, All Might was a bit faster. After all, you could still somewhat track Izuku's movements, but you had to be paying close attention. It didn't take any special quirks or anything, or special perception to follow him. You just had to be paying close attention to his movement. Izuku would run through, crashing into robots and just simply crashing into them. Heck, running into them just sent them flying and just completely destroyed. All the proctors would be watching this, and they would be leaning forward in their seats. What kind of power does this kid have? Ida would watch as this green flash of light sped past him. Ida was shocked. He was sure that his speed was incredible, but this kind of speed? Holy crap! There was no way that Ten was going to let him beat him, but by the time he had gotten finished with his thoughts, the boy was already gone. He could see the green flash of light almost 3 blocks down. That is some speed. After all, Izuku wasn't running in a straight line. He's running like back and forth across the streets, so he's already gotten 3 more blocks down. Because of this, Izuku would be able to snag almost all the points, being in the first place by such a significant number that no one could even hope to catch up to him since there wasn't enough robots. Izuku would say, "That's enough points for me. I'll let the others get into UA. Before the 0-pointer would round the corner, and Izuku would say, "Ooh, a challenge. I guess I should use that technique." Naruto would... Oh my gosh, I just called him Naruto. Izuku would start waving hand signs before eventually stopping on the tiger hand sign. No, sorry, the serpent. Yeah, the serpent hand sign. The serpent hand sign. Before slamming his hand into the ground and saying, "Earth style, mudslide." The ground beneath the 0-pointer would turn into a slick mud, burying him inside of the mud. And then Izuku would power up into the 7th gate and blitz forward with such speeds that no one, not even the proctors, could follow him. No one could see him before he was right in front of the 0-pointer, sticking his hands out in the dragon formation, saying, "Hirashin!" And the 0-pointer would be blown away. The entire top half would be obliterated. No one could see this kind of power coming from this kid. This was insane. After displaying such power in destroying the 0-pointer, everyone would be surprised, and Izuku would just fall to the ground, feet first, and land gracefully. The 7th gate would then power off, as well as all of the gates, as Izuku would walk towards the crowd of people. He would then walk over to the girl he had been, you could call leering, but more of distracted staring at, as he would call it, having her leg under a pile of rubble. He would slide his hand under the pile of rubble and flick it up. Immediately, it would flip over and crash into one of the sidewalks. He would then hoist her up, throwing her over his shoulder and helping her through the crowd, saying that, "Best get you to a medic. That ankle looks pretty bad." But as soon as he said it, Recovery Girl would show up out of nowhere and say, "She's hurt, isn't she? Let me take her." You're a Recovery Girl, right? Alright then. Yeah, I need to get her to you anyways. He would set the girl we know as Uraraka down, and Recovery Girl would heal her. Uraraka would be dumbfounded at this kid's power and as well as his body, since the tracksuit's upper half had been destroyed in using the 7th gate, almost like a Goku-like power-up. Uraraka would catch herself staring, and she would immediately blush. This guy was not only jacked, but had a quite not chiseled face. In fact, it was almost disproportionate. He had such an adorable face. In fact, he was cute as cute could be. But his body, god dang, he was jacked. He was just a gorgeous man in general. He was definitely something to be jealous of. Something that women would want and something that men would want to be. Both, not just being able to have a good-looking face, but also have that kind of body. Almost resembling of a Greek god as he walked away out of through the crowds of people who seemingly stepped to the side as if they were showing respect to the immense amount of power that he had just displayed, before eventually all dispersing to go find the rest of the remaining robots. And after this, Izuku would obviously get into UA, showing these feats of power. Everybody, like in the original canon, would still get into UA and still get into Class 1A. Izuku being slightly pissed that Bakugo managed to get in, silently saying the word fuck under his breath. This little shit's here. God, he's just gonna blab about how he's gonna be the #1 hero every fucking day, isn't he? Izuku, as I stated before, doesn't really like Bakugo all that much. In fact, it almost seems like he despises him. And this despise this despisement is just further justified when Ida tells Bakugo to take his shoes off the desk. But Bakugo would just reply with, what are you talking about, nerd? Sit down. I'm better than all you extras. So you best learn that I'm the top of the food chain. Top of the food chain, you say? Izuku would say, walking in. Everybody, including the girl that his eye had caught from yesterday, looked at him in surprise. Oi! It's that quirkless Deku! How the heck did you do what you did yesterday? I thought you were supposed to be quirkless. Turns out I'm just a late bloomer, you fucktard. And please, stop being such an asshole to my friend. It's uncivilized. Especially for a hero. People might mistake you for a villain with your spiky haircut and just overall villainous demeanor. What did you just call me, you little nerd? You stupid Deku? Still with the nicknames? You're gonna expect me to call you Kachan, aren't you? No, you're not Kachan, you're just Bakugo. You and I are not friends, so don't call me Deku. Bakugo would almost be shocked by this, and everybody else could see the absolute rivalry, almost the rivalous aura, but instead of a friendly rivalry, it was a very hateful rivalry, especially from Izuku to Bakugo, which normally wasn't the case in the normal canon, but Izuku, now understanding Bakugo's point of view. Understanding his point of view in the fact that Izuku understood that Bakugo hated people, or rather didn't hate people, but just thought everybody was below him, and he wanted to show, finally, he didn't want to, but he was going to have to show Bakugo who was the alpha of this place. We are not friends, Katsuki Bakugo, and I will show you what a true hero looks like. The air was so thick in the room that you could barely breathe. These two presences were enough to make nearly everyone seemingly suffocate. It was so thick. It was hard to breathe, to be honest. But now we'll move straight into the USJ. Now, the USJ would go as per normal. Nothing really changes except for the fact that Izuku has a easier time handling himself against the Nomu until All Might shows up. He thought he was going to have to go into the, maybe have to go into the 8th gate if things got really bad, but luckily it didn't come to that. After that, we would go to the sports festival. And this is where things really start to amp up. Izuku would get past the first 2 rounds relatively easily, but it was the one-on-one matches that he had been waiting for. His first opponent was Shinzo, from the General Studies area. So, I see you're from General Studies, aren't you? Yeah, I am. You're gonna laugh at me just because I am in General Studies? That'll be your downfall. I never laugh at the underdog. In fact, I myself was once in your position. So, I hope that you actually prove a good fight. Hell, I might even be rooting for you to win. Just because I know what you feel like. I know what being the underdog is like, and I know how good it is to wipe the smug face off of those who are cocky, who go against you. But trust me, I'm not cocky, and I won't take you lightly, Shinzo. I know all about your quirk, and I ain't gonna answer a single question. You just did. Oh, Izuku felt his body freeze. You answered my question of, are you gonna underestimate me? Wow. You truly are an idiot. He would say, telling Izuku to walk out of the ring, but right as Izuku was about to walk out of the ring, Izuku flared. making his entire body go into the 7th gate of shock. This pain would awaken him, and he would be able to turn around, and then going back down into the 4th gate would then go and just wail Shinzo right out of the ring. After this, it would be Todoroki versus Izuku. Todoroki would be on his guard at all times, knowing the power that Izuku had displayed just against Shinzo. The 7th gate of his was something to be feared. Izuku and Todoroki stood off before Izuku would then dash at Todoroki with blinding speeds. Todoroki would try to keep up, but there was no use. He couldn't follow Izuku's movements, and this was just the 6th gate. After all, there was no blue aura yet, so this wasn't even his full power. This was insane. Todoroki, he just said, "Alright, I guess you truly are someone worthy of my power." He slammed his foot into the ground and created a giant ice, basically what looked like the Shinra Tensei, only it was made out of ice. And it just swirled around Todoroki and shot outwards in a circular glacier formation. Izuku would get trapped in this ice, but all of a sudden, a banging would be heard coming from the ice, and Izuku would erupt out of the ice before blitzing Todoroki with blinding speeds once again, and then he would slam his foot into Todoroki, and Todoroki would be sent flying back, but Todoroki would catch himself with ice. How? Todoroki would groan in pain, not even being able to stand after that one kick. Everybody would see him curdling up on the floor, and they were wondering, just from a simple kick? Jeez, I thought Todoroki was stronger than that. Ha! Looks like Icy Hot couldn't handle his stuff. Don't worry, when he gets his ass whooped, I'll handle Deku myself, Katsuki would say. After this, since Todoroki couldn't get up, he physically couldn't will himself to get up, Midnight would call the match, and Izuku would be declared the winner. With that kind of power, God, he's even more appealing now, Uraraka would say. Well, not out loud, but in the back of her mind. Although, her now close friend, Tsuyu Asui, otherwise known as Suchan, would notice this change in her face. In fact, the blushing signaled it, and Tsuyu would have plans to speak with the other girls after the sports festival was over. Then, the final round came. Izuku Midoriya versus Katsuki Bakugo. This fight would decide it. This fight would prove if Bakugo really was all that, or if Midoriya was right and he was just some stupid idiot who was yelling his head off for no reason. Izuku said, "I'm not taking any chances with you." Izuku would say, starting hand seals, before landing on the final hand seal. Fire style, majestic destroyer flame. He shot out a breath of fire so wide that it covered the entire arena. Bakugo could go nothing but up. This is exactly what Izuku expected. He said, and Izuku yelled before going into the 7th grade of shock. He said, "If you die, it's not my fault." Izuku would jump up into the air, sending a shockwave so powerful that it destroyed his half of the stadium. Bakugo would have nowhere to run, and Izuku would be right in front of him, doing the Dragon Hand Seal. "You saw this move before, now it shall be your undoing. Katsuki Bakugo, I'm sorry." He was just about to use the Hirashin, but then He saw Bakugo's mother and Bakugo's father. He saw them dressed in black, standing over a gravestone, crying. He saw his mother looking back at him with a disappointed look on her face before she herself would turn back to Mitsuki and try to comfort her crying best friend. Izuku would feel this, and he would immediately drop to the ground, powering down to nothing but the 5th gate. Bakugo would say, "Aw, you done already, you baby?" Izuku would then say, "I never said I was done." Izuku would then test out the new jutsu he had been practicing. He put his hands together, and then he bit his thumb before sliding the blood down his hand and doing multiple hand seals before eventually slamming the hand with blood into the ground. "Summoning jutsu," Naruto would say. And puff of smoke, out of that puff of smoke would come, you may have guessed it, or you may have not, the Ram summon. This Ram, known as Yaka, play on words of yak, nothing Japanese, or if it is, then I didn't amend it. It's just a play on words of yak. But Yaka would say, "Why did you summon me here? Do you need something?" The yak was easily nearly 20 feet tall and took up nearly the entire half of the stadium that Izuku was on. Everybody stood there in shock. Then Izuku just said, "Attack." The Ram would charge at Bakugo, and Bakugo would charge up a ferocious attack, hitting the Ram, but it didn't seem to even slow it down. The Ram would slam into Bakugo, knocking him out of the ring, defeating him, before the Ram would then disappear. Everybody would stare in shock. Shooting fire from his lips, that giant that power-up quirk, and now this? What kind of quirk did he have? How could it do all these diverse things? Everybody looked so weird, but Uraraka just continued to blush even harder. She was infatuated with him. You could almost call her a little perverted. She, not gonna lie, kinda wanted Izuku. A little badly. That night, after the sports festival, Izuku Midoriya would find his friend Tenya Ida in an alleyway about to be killed. But Izuku would easily go straight into the 7th gate and use the Kirashin, immediately killing the Hero Killer Stain, before helping his friend up and saying, "Let's go home. Revenge isn't the answer, but villains need to be defeated." "Midoriya, you just killed him." "I didn't mean to. I saw you were in danger and I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry, Ida. I really am." "That's okay, my friend. That's okay." They would casually walk home together, and Tenya would thank Izuku for saving him. And after this, we are going to head straight into the training camp. So the training camp would go as per normal, and I do believe that that everything up into the fateful night would occur as the same. The interaction between Kota and Midoriya would still be the same, with Midoriya just being able to block the fist instead of actually getting punched in the nuts. After this, Muscular would arrive to Kota's special place, and before he could kill Kota, Midoriya would jump in the way, pulling Kota back, but then rushing straight forward and using the 6 gates power to punch straight into the middle of Muscular. But it would do nothing. What? How? There's no way that he had this much power to absorb a punch from the 6 gate? That was really impressive. Midoriya would then back up and he would say, "Alright then, I guess you are worthy of this power. 7th gate of shock, open!" Midoriya would open the 7th gate of shock before going and rapidly punching at Muscular. Muscular would be blown back by these attacks, but he would seem to recover from them each time, although it did do an impressive amount of damage, but it seemed Muscular was adapting to it. Hell, he seemed to be going backwards less and less with each punch. Midoriya suddenly got worried, and Muscular transformed into his full-body muscular state and started rushing at Izuku, slamming everything in his path, including Izuku against the wall a couple of times. Izuku, obviously being careless, got hit a couple times, as I said, but he eventually was on full guard and was dodging with all of his might. He then would say, "Alright, I guess it's finally time to undiscover this jutsu. I will defeat you. That's for a fact." Now, over this time, he had actually worked on his lightning affinity, and if you know anything about Sasuke, you know exactly where this is going. Naruto would launch a small ball of light up into the sky, thunderclouds would form, and all of a sudden, Naruto would launch a giant stream of lightning up into the sky. Well, not giant, but just like a stream of lightning from his hand, and then he would wave his electrified hand down, and a giant lightning drag would come crashing into Muscular. Muscular would be on the ground, his muscles retreating back from the electric shock, but not all the way. Muscular would be huffing and puffing. He was obviously out of breath, but Izuku would then say, "Let's see you recover from this." He would then rush forward, entering the 7th gate once more, and using the Dragon Hand Seal. "Hidashin!" Before blasting Muscular back. But somehow, Muscular survived. Although Muscular was completely knocked out, and probably would stay that way for a good while, he actually survived a Hidashin, even in his weakened state. You truly were impressive, but the 7th gate's power is nothing to laugh at. Alright, Kota, come on, let's get you back to your aunt. Right. Thank you, Mr. Midoriya. No problem, Kota. After this, Bakugo would still sadly be taken, and the Bakugo retrieval arc would go as normal, with Tenya Ida, Yaoyoro Zumomo, Kirishima Ejiro Kirishima, and, although he didn't want to go, Izuku Midoriya would also come along, as well as Todoroki Shoto. Izuku didn't care, but he is still a hero after all, and saving people is his job, and he could also rub this in Bakugo's face. So, yeah. Izuku just hoped that Bakugo wouldn't accept the proposition to join the League of Villains. That would be something that they couldn't allow to happen. Bakugo, although he was an idiot, well, no, he wasn't an idiot. He was actually incredibly smart, but although he was an asshole, he was still powerful and incredibly cunning and smart. They couldn't let him become a villain. So, because of this, Izuku would, as I said, come along. And Izuku would come along, and eventually, after a while, the pro heroes would save the day, only for a dark presence to appear out of nowhere. Best Genius would be blown back, seemingly killed, and Mountain Lady would be blown halfway across the block, crashing down, and then basically trying her best to get up, but the impact really hurt. All for One would land, and he would look at Bakugo and he would say, "I'm tired of having people constantly underestimate me. This is the final day of reckoning." He would steal everyone's quirks, the League of Villains and Bakugo's. What? My quirk? You stole it! Give it back! All Might would appear out of nowhere, and he would slam his fist into All For One. All For One would then jump back, and All Might and All For One would begin their match. But All Might was even more determined this time, and he had actually picked up a little trick from a friend. That friend having run a recently new dojo. That's right, Might Guy. Now, Izuku watched as he saw the chakra flow. There was a chakra flow from All Might. All Might powered up into, what? The fourth gate? He would slam his fist into All For One, and All For One would be blown back. All For One couldn't keep up with this power and speed. It was like All Might was in his prime again. That's impossible. You're supposed to be crippled, for God's sake. All For One would scream, but it was too late. All Might was already there. Let us go out in a blaze of glory. All For One! He would say, punching All For One up in the air. But All For One had a plan. All For One would redirect himself right over a giant factory. All Might thought nothing of it as just a normal building, but what he didn't know was that it was a nuclear power plant. United States of Smash! Fourth gate style! He would say, smashing into All For One, and All For One would say, Tomura, my student. Shigaraki, take this, he would say, passing All For One to Shigaraki, as well as his old quirk. He would also restore Bakugo's quirk, seeing as Bakugo could be a potential good rival for Shigaraki. But the others would not have their quirks. They didn't need them. Shigaraki would give them all they needed, which All For One knew Shigaraki was going to kill them. After all, that was his orders. To kill this League of Villains and to destroy everything. All For One didn't want peace any longer. All he wanted was destruction. He was flung down along with All Might right into the nuclear power plant. A giant explosion rocketed in the sky, enveloping in a giant flaming tornado. When everything was settled, the bodies were found, mauled to such an extent that it literally made nearly everybody, even the paramedics, want to throw up when they found them. It actually did make a lot of pro heroes throw up. And even Gran Torino puked himself when he saw it. It was horrifying. All Might was dead. And that's where I'm going to end it off. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video. So, I forgot the plugs. Go check out SAG. Go check out Kira Gem. Go check out Josh Love Anime. Go check out Izukage. And go check out Red Demon of the Leaf. All 5 of those guys. Let's go road to 1K subscribers before the end of the year. Before January 1st. Let's get to 1K. 1,000. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I will make sure to see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.
All day.